Alright, this should be the third hour of today's stream, and the final hour, giving us just enough time to clear this world's storyline. And maybe one more. But yes, we did get, and equip our beautiful Jungle King. Look at that. Also, just to pay homage to the incredible amount of aesthetic detail that Square Enix and Nomura's teams in particular put into their work, each and every Keyblade in the series has its own, like, I want to say, like, contrails for when it's swung through the air, and its own unique visual effect that appears whenever you strike enemies or objects with that Keyblade. Just a nice little touch that they added, I think. Really kind of adds a bit more flavor to these Keyblades. Totally inconsequential, but cool. As are a lot of the little details that are added into the Kingdom Hearts series. Now, we're just going to talk to Phil
too heavy.
to tell him that we couldn't move the pedestal whatsoever.
Too heavy? Since when have you been such a little... Oh, wrong guy. What are you doing here? This here's the world-famous Coliseum, heroes only. And I got my hands full preparing for the games, so run along, pipsqueaks. Look, it's like this. Heroes are coming from all over to fight ferocious monsters right here in the Coliseum.
You've got heroes standing right in front of you.
Yup, he's a real hero chosen by the Keyblade.
That dopey, vacant smile on Sora's face is not helping their case here whatsoever.
What's so funny? I fought a bunch of monsters.
Oh god, that line.
Hey, if you can't even move
This is a pretty great little scene all around.
You can't call yourself a hero!
As I said, there's not a lot of plot in Olympus Coliseum, but, like, just the little character interactions make coming here, well worth it.
Okay, so it takes more than brawn. Well, let's see what you can do.
It helps that Hercules as a film was populated by a lot of very lovable and memorable characters. So, now we'll talk to Phil to find out that he's going to offer us trials, which, if we are able to complete them in proper form, will perhaps earn us entry into the games. So now we will begin the first of 2 training courses that we will have to complete. And it's very simple. You just have to use your Keyblade, spells, anything at your disposal to shatter all the barrels within the time limit. This should be nice and easy because, on occasion, if you line it up properly, you can send some barrels flying straight into others, as we did there by complete accident.
Fire!
You're kidding me, one blast of fire doesn't destroy a wooden barrel. Alright. And now we just have to do the same thing with a slightly more complicated course. No big deal. No big deal. Because I am good at video games. I will keep telling myself this. Send that one into the other, and there we go. We've already got most of the quote-unquote difficult barrels out of the way. Now it's just a simple matter of clear these. And these, I should have sent that barrel flying into these 4, but didn't. And it's alright, we were supposed to knock that one into the other, but we'll just use our fire instead. And it's worth noting that in this game, I believe this game alone, you can actually rapid fire your flame spells by simply pressing the button several times. I think up to 3 times in quick succession.
Why not?
Very handy in certain situations.
You guys ain't heroes!
Come on!
Couldn't agree more. So Phil, at the least, gives us perhaps the most useful combat spell in the early game, Thunder, a nice direct target, small AoE spell that is incredibly useful for taking out airborne enemies or those with pretty hardy defenses. While we may have had a bit of trouble actually connecting with our magic spells beforehand, we will find no such difficulties with Thunder. So now if we talk to Phil, all he'll let us do is repeat those training courses to try for a better time. Not really worth it, so I guess we have no choice but to just leave the Coliseum and progress the plot. And meet one of my favorite characters.
Stubborn old goat, wouldn't you say?
Who are you?
Oh, hey, hold on there, Fuzzboy. Wait, let me guess. You want to enter the
Hades,
games, right?
Voiced as always by Mr. James Woods, who turns in probably the best performance in the entire game.
Pass?
It's all yours. Good luck, kid. I'm pulling for you, little shorty.
He doesn't get many scenes, but those he is in are just elevated by the phenomenal amount of charisma he exudes. Because A, it's Hades, of course it is, but B, Woods has said, I believe, that he was so enamored with the character, he insists on voicing it anytime Hades appears in any type of media. So it's an artist doing something they love, right? And it really comes through when you hear his performance. So now that we have an entry pass that Phil doesn't ask after at all, we can enter the preliminary games, which will be in the form of a very simple, like I think 7 or 8 round gauntlet of battles. So some real weirdos signed up. Ho-ho, watch out. Which, of course, means Heartless will be our enemies once again. Heartless culled from all the worlds we've been through before, and a couple brand new types. First off, I think it's amusing that here the Heartless, under Hades' command, aren't even really trying to take over the world or devour it. They're merely entering into and, like, rigging a, like, martial arts competition. Which just kind of shows you Hades' demeanor vis-a-vis those of the other villains. But we did see one new type of Heartless in that round that I think merits examination very briefly, and that's our second type of Mage Heartless, the Blue Rhapsody. They are, as you would expect, the Blizzard casting Mage Heartless, and are actually a bit easier to deal with than the Red Nocturnes simply because their projectiles do not track, nor do they cast their spell in, like, the wide shotgun type spread that Sora is able to. And, of course, there, I normally would have gotten all excited, but it was just a cameo from Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. Everybody knows him. Fewer and fewer people like him as a character as time goes on, I think. And that's because they've been very fond of this, like, emotionally overwrought portrayal of Cloud in a lot of expanded universe media, when in the original game, he was not that, depressing, not that maudlin. He was actually a pretty standard JRPG protagonist, maybe just a little more serious than was the norm at the time, but not by much. So, as you see, we've just been beating our way through some very basic Heartless. This tournament, the preliminary tournament, which is the only mandatory one in the entire game, is very straightforward. You'll be fighting Mage Heartless, Shadows, Soldiers, and I think a large body or two, but that's about it. So there's not too much to say here, save that I love the fact that they gave each and every seed in the game's tournaments. And it's not just the preliminaries, every tournament, its own unique and pithy little name.
See ya! Fire!
Always want to get those tech points by vanquishing the Mage Heartless with the spell they would be weakest to. How's everybody liking the stream out there so far? Are we hanging in there? Gonna bring this last hour home? Yeah, well, I'm looking. I don't think that the Nocturnes have a homing spell. They may.
Come on!
The only real complication is you cannot bat their ice crystals away in the same way that you could the Nocturnes' fireballs.
That little punk is your next opponent, okay? Now don't blow it. Just take him out.
The great god of the underworld is afraid of a kid? Sorry, but my contract says...
I know! You think I don't know? I wrote the contract! I know it says you're only required to kill Hercules in this tournament. But you gotta fight that kid to get to him. Come on. Hey, it's like that old goat says. Rule number 11. It's all just a game.
So we see here that Cloud has been hired as a mercenary by Hades
no big deal, right?
to kill Hercules and then supposedly allow Hades monsters to run rampant on Olympus.
Ew. Stiffer than the stiff.
Because I guess when horrific, primordial, mythological entities are unable to overcome an obstacle in your way, that's when you start licensing it out to, or the task out to JRPG protagonists. Sure. Why not?
Come on!
All good? Thank you very much, Overlord. Hopefully we can pull in a pretty consistent audience. We've had a few people dropping in and out, and I just want to say to everybody who's joined the stream, either live or watching this on VOD, thank you so much for your continued patronage as I continue to learn my way around Twitch. I know I'm not the world's most engaging host quite yet, but we're learning slowly but surely. The interesting thing about that, like, charge attack that the large bodies will launch out once they get low on health is that as soon as they stop, as soon as they're... Sorry, we'll get to that in just a minute because it's boss fight time. I'm actually not going to pause for this one. Welcome to the Cloud Strife boss fight. Like Leon's fight earlier in the game, this is not a mandatory fight. You can lose this. And all you would miss out on is, I think, a little bit of experience and maybe an item.
That's the best you can do?
Cloud's mechanics, for this fight at least, are extremely straightforward. He has this jumping plunge attack, a standard thrust that you'll just have to dodge out of the way of, and a very easy to block or interrupt 3-hit combo. Magic may actually be your best friend when it comes to dealing short chip damage to him, as you wait for more lucrative opportunities to attack and present themselves. Like so, he is wide open after the plunging attack. I could be doing better, but regardless, we were able to beat Cloud pretty handily and get a nice chunk of 80 experience for our troubles. We are introduced here to the world's real boss, Cerberus.
I forgot. Accident happened.
Hades is gloriously evil as ever.
Hey, Phil! Get them out of here!
Get up on the Hellhound's back! Couldn't resist. Okay, so... since Hercules may be in trouble, it's up to our brave, capable, and extremely determined protagonist to take on Cerberus alongside Hercules. We'll be alongside him, right? Sure. So... basically, what this means is we are going to have to charge into the breach ourselves and intervene in the battle, take on Cerberus ourselves. Oh, I'm not afraid. We could take on Cerberus. If we could do Clayton in the stealth sneak at this stage in the game, we can very easily defeat Hades' pet here. Now, obviously, purely due to his heroic and charitable spirit, Hercules is going to focus on getting Cloud out of harm's way instead of, you know, helping us
Jake,
combat this
I got
creature
2
he
words of
could
advice
throttle
for you.
easily.
Attack!
So, welcome to the Cerberus boss fight. This nasty little beastie has a few different attacks. It will be constantly firing off from its 3 pump maws continually. Starting with this one, a very simple line fire flame orb attack. It's especially fond of this attack though, where it rears up and just kind of chomps forward with 1 or more of its heads at a time. The only difficult thing here is avoiding taking damage yourself as you jump up and wail on Cerberus's heads. It has a simple stomp AoE, and once you wear it down, it will start doing this. Vomiting a torrent of just pure dark energy into the ground, which will cause these little portals to constantly spawn under your feet for a time, which of course deal damage as they erupt with an updraft of dark energy.
Come on! Come on!
Cerberus is actually at his most helpless, I believe, when he is spewing the fire orbs. Because, as I said, they're just a blind fire and they progress, like, directly diagonally downward from his maws. So if you jump in from the side, as I've been doing, he's kind of defenseless in those situations.
Come on!
And like that, we have already brought this one on home. And with that, Cerberus is vanquished for now. And we get an Inferno Band, a pretty decent early game accessory for our troubles.
Thus, I do hereby dub thee Junior Heroes and confer upon thee full rights and privileges to participate in the games. Further...
Hey, what do you mean, Junior Heroes?
You rookies still don't understand what it takes to be a true hero.
So, what does it take?
Well, that's just something you'll have to find out for yourselves.
So now we are introduced
Just
to
the
the
way that I
consistent
did.
plot thread that will connect our
No
heroes'
problem.
adventures in
We'll
Olympus
start by
throughout the
proving ourselves in
entire
the
series, or at least the Dark Seeker saga, as Namor and
There ain't
friends have
gonna
been
be any
referring to
games
it.
for a while.
Their quest
Gotta clean
to
up the mess
become
from that
true
last
heroes
battle
in the
first.
eyes of Olympus, or
Okay.
at least
We'll be back.
Philosophes. In Kingdom Hearts 2, they
I
will
still can't
continue to
believe
strive
that
for
squirt actually
true
beat
heroism,
Cerberus.
and will be
Just
denied
between
once
us,
more.
I'd
So
already
maybe
warned
in the
Cerberus
opening
down by the
act
time
of
the
Kingdom
main
Hearts
guy
3,
jumped
we
in.
will finally attain true hero status, and Donald can
lips are
finally
sealed.
feel a bit better about himself. With that said, folks, we have one more little matter to take care of, a meeting with a particular downcast anime hero, but for all intents and purposes, we've already beaten the Olympus Coliseum storyline. Now, the cool thing about Olympus is as we progress through the game, these large dockets you see on either side of the entryway will become filled in with information on more tournaments. 3 per side, so not 3 tournaments, I'm sorry, not 6. Let's try this one more time. Not 3 tournaments per side, but a copy of the information, the roster, for each of 3 tournaments on either side of the entryway. As we progress through the game, information on these tournaments will become available to us, and we can enter into them for the opportunity to fight in special unique battles, face a couple totally unique enemies, and gain, most importantly, some really unique loot and even an ability or two from victory in those tournaments. So while we won't have much else to do in terms of story or exploration in Olympus, aside from triggering these trinities when we're able, we will be coming back here time and again to participate in these tournaments, develop our character, and edge closer and closer towards 100% completion. But that is all matter for another time, another stream,
Hey,
as now we have
you
to talk
alright?
to Cloud.
Yeah.
So, why did you go along with him anyway?
I'm looking for someone. Hades promised to help. I tried to exploit the power of darkness, but it backfired. I fell into darkness, and I couldn't find the light.
So,
You'll find it.
throughout at least Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom
I'm
Hearts
searching
2,
too.
Cloud is supposed to be going through this sort of like vaguely defined redemption
light.
arc that kind of echoes the one that Riku will journey along in later games.
Don't lose
But
sight of it.
this is all left so nebulous, right?
How
that
about
it
a
kind of
rematch
lacks
sometime?
any real
Fair and square,
emotional
no dark powers involved.
impact on the audience, at least in my humble opinion.
I think I'll pass.
Cloud's a great character. It's great to see him, and especially to have him as like a cameo opponent in the Coliseum. But I do appreciate that they kept his role relatively brief, because I'm not much for this incarnation of Cloud, if that makes sense. Instead, the other Final Fantasy VII character, who we haven't been introduced to yet, but will make a very significant impact on at least my experiences in Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, has a much more meaningful, if succinct, contribution to the overall themes we'll be exploring throughout the story. Cloud supposedly, like, cooperated with Hades just to find somebody, but again, we're left very vague on why that is, what the circumstances were.
He's always there for you, and he's handsome to boot.
He seemed to be an antagonist in this world solely because we thought it'd be really cool to fight Cloud.
He makes me crazy!
Wait a minute. What are you worried about? All the pieces are in place. Relax.
Of course, we have to send Olympus off with
Whoa. Here's what you do.
easily
Let Hercules
its
train the kid.
greatest
In the
player.
next games, I'll take care of them both. Who invited you to the party? Stay out of this. This is my show.
As you wish. Fight to your heart's content.
In cutscenes, at least, I think all of the characters, especially the Disney characters, have fantastic facial animation. They're very expressive, just as they would be in their original, like, source material, and I think that is just a real triumph of Square Enix's graphic design team, and cutscene directors as well. But, back on topic, with the Olympus Coliseum completed for now, you'll notice that last cutscene was somewhat ominous and acts sort of as an arbiter of what's to come in the Coliseum later on. We are left with no recourse, having visited all the worlds in this circuit, but to go back to Traverse Town and see if we can't find out something about that gummy that we found back in the deep jungle. Once more, I just want to thank anybody out there who may be watching, especially in the live audience, for deigning to spend your time with us this beautiful New Year's Eve. We kind of just got to kill time now as we wait for the Gummy Chip segment to come to a merciful end. So I do want to just take this moment as we near the end of the stream to thank each and every one of you. It's extremely inspiring for me to see that we've had a small but steady audience all throughout today. I've seen it as like oscillating from 4 to 7 audience members throughout. So to anybody who stopped in, even just for a moment, and was like, you know, this isn't for me, I want to offer you my sincere, heartfelt thanks, and hope I can keep producing material here on a regular basis that's worthy of your time and attention. And especially, I hope you enjoy your holiday, of course, as we prepare setting about for the new year. I'm not planning on doing too particularly much today. I've mainly got to get ready for the graduate record exam, or the GRE, which, if you haven't taken yourself, you have no doubt heard horror stories about from anybody who's ever earned like a master's or a PhD. So that's how I'm going to be spending the remainder of my time today. Mainly boning up on math, because as a student of the liberal arts, I haven't really done math at any real complexity, I should say, in maybe 3.5 years. And even then, the last math I did was Statistics and Probability, now rebranded in this state as Introduction to Statistics, which relied almost entirely on software. So I myself, as far as like mental calculation and all that, beyond my like multiplication and division tables, am completely derelict in my mathematical capabilities. At any rate, we are back at Traverse Town, and you'll notice we received, I believe it was a Wheel G, a special gummy as a reward for completing a gummy ship mission. Now, these are a new feature that was added to Kingdom Hearts Final Mix in order to make the gummy ship content a bit more engaging and purposeful, and I do appreciate their inclusion. There are 3 very simple objectives for each world. They could be as simple as simply destroy X amount of enemy ships in a voyage to or from this world, or travel from World X to World Y without stopping over, or perhaps travel from World X to Y without taking damage and without ever engaging any of your weapons. And completion of these missions awards you with special gummy pieces that you can use to customize your ship further, if that's your kind of thing. So our goal, I believe, was to track down Leon to see if he knew anything about the mysterious gummy that we received from Deep Jungle, the fecal gummy. So Leon's at the underground cavern. So we are going to have to go to the 3rd district in order to actually open up the cavern where Leon will be training. It's behind that flame, the flame sigil on that sealed door in the 3rd district. We could stop in to see Sid. He's got some new accessories, but nothing we really need. But now there's a Moogle in here, just to let us know about the Coliseum. Now that we have fire, we can actually stoke the fireplace for no real reason, but we have the ability to do that. And there's plenty of other elemental interactions we can have with the environment around Traverse Town. One that is quite meaningful is right over here. These are special trick candles designed to automatically reignite after a certain period of time has passed. But if we use our blizzard spell to extinguish them...
Deep freeze! See ya! Deep freeze!
They'll stay extinguished for just a bit longer. And we can then unlock this chest, which would have been sealed previously, to get another defense up, which we will pop straight away. For Sora, of course. As I said, Goofy's tanky enough. Donald probably couldn't take a hit if you gave him every defense up in the entire game. And there's really no reason to invest these limited items on either of them, as they're not consistently effective enough in combat. Speaking of which, our next order of business, I'm so sorry I'm running around kind of haphazardly, but our next order of business should actually be to stop in to see Donald's nephews, because by then now they would be offering special weapons for Goofy and their Uncle Donald. So, we see here we have 2 weapons for each. We can pick our favorite. And these kind of establish the baselines for Donald and Goofy's purchasable weapons throughout the rest of the game. There's kind of 2 or 3 basic approaches, or 2 or 3 basic paradigms that each of their weapons will fall into. In Donald's case, we have a staff that heightens magic power at the cost of some physical damage capability, or one that makes Donald a little bit more combat capable, but actually reduces his MP by 1. This is a horrible idea. You should never elect to waste money, in this case more money, on Donald's attack-based weapons, simply because that would weaken his magic capability, and as Donald learns more spells or becomes more magically adept throughout the course of the game, keeping his NP high and easily rechargeable becomes a priority. So we'll go for the Morning Star. And in Goofy's case, we have a shield that prioritizes attack, or one that prioritizes defense. Now, I don't know about you, but I've always been kind of the best defense is a great relentless offense kind of guy, so I will elect to buy the Smasher there, and we'll equip both of these, so that Donald receives his Morning Star, which does give him a small boost to strength, in addition to making his magic more powerful, and Goofy will get the Smasher, which is tiny and looks kind of ridiculous, but will still be quite useful at present. Seeing as how we don't really need fire or dark resistance, which would have been perfect for the Cerberus fight, we will just give Donald the Inferno Band for now. Now, since we unlocked that short little, since we unlocked the gate in the 3rd district, we have unlocked a nice shortcut to the 3rd district, and we get to meet a new enemy for Traverse Town's 2nd visit, and one of my least favorite enemies in the entire game. Anybody who's played this game before may share the sentiment. These things are the air soldiers. I love their design. They've got kind of like a bizarre steampunk pilot thing going on. But I hate having to fight them, because they are not that difficult to just burn down. They don't have a lot of health or anything. And they tend to be somewhat easy to dispatch in general. But if you are focusing on other Heartless, which oftentimes you will be when they spawn in, they will inevitably drop kick you from above, or perform a flying claw attack that will stun you, or rather make you flinch, and therefore totally susceptible to attacks from the 2 or 3 Heartless you were beating up on, causing you to get sort of juggled about, which has happened to me with air soldiers more times than I would care to admit.
See ya!
They are the ultimate, combo breakers, and can be a right proper pain. But at least it doesn't take much to eliminate them. And notice that despite the fact that we gave up our some of our magic capability during the dive to the heart, we relinquished the Mystic's Rod, that is. We have not been suffering for magic spells or NP. Of course, nothing affects your acquisition of magic spells. Those are all tied to plot or the completion of certain side objectives. But, hold on just a second. I actually want to put our Thunder spell on that last shortcut. I can go into the menu to use Cure if ever I need to. But we've been getting plenty of MP and a couple magic boosting abilities already. So, nothing too terrible to concern ourselves with regarding the relinquishing of the Mystic's Rod. Now we have a very straightforward little platforming section we have to complete in order to reach this ramshackle, dilapidated house that becomes a place of great import for us. And also the staging area for, and guys, I'm so sorry to say it, probably my least favorite world in the main series.
There's something about this.
We'll be coming back here very, very frequently, especially during the second half of the game. So get used to it and enjoy the not FMV, the cutscene.
It reminds me of the secret place back home, where we used to scribble on the walls. Remember?
Kyrie?
Sora?
And we are introduced to Merlin from Disney's The Sword in the Stone, who will act for... Seriously, Sora, every single Heartless you have seen has the glowing like yellow eyes, typically has the Heartless logo emblazoned on its chest, and is totally incapable of speech. So what are we... I guess they just needed to drive home that Sora is not a very bright child. As if they haven't done so enough already, or would not continue to do so for the next couple hundred hours of Kingdom Hearts content. Now, Merlin serves as our magic tutor for all intents and purposes. He offers a training facility wherein we can experiment with new magic spells or applications of the same, and also a couple magic-enhancing pieces of equipment a bit later on. But first, he needs to restore his home. The most important thing he provides to us at this point, however, is an additional save point in this structure that we can drop in to or out of the world map from, enabling us to get a bit closer to the action in Traverse Town for the remainder of the game. Most of the content we'll be dealing with from this point on is centered on the 3rd and 2nd districts, with the occasional visit to the 1st, so this is slightly more convenient for us. Oh, and here we have a miniature pumpkin carriage from Cinderella, which is going to transform to reveal the Fairy Godmother. Who doesn't love the Fairy Godmother? Just one of those timeless Disney characters that I think everybody has some deep fondness for, you know, the sweet, elderly, like, ideal parental figure. And she serves a very special purpose as well, and we'll actually be dealing with her more so than Merlin. She is going to allow us to access summons, a Final Fantasy staple that have been altered somewhat for their implementation in Kingdom Hearts. But we don't have anything we can use to actually attain a summon quite yet. Quite fittingly, from Merlin, we get a magic restoring item. And hold on a moment, if I can maneuver around just a bit. Right here. Okay, guys, you see this end table right here? This is hell. We are going to be standing in front of this drafting table, saying our prayers time and again throughout the rest of this playthrough. This right here, this is the spring point, or the springboard into perhaps the worst world, or the worst iteration of any world in the Kingdom Hearts main series. It's one I still like the aesthetics of, mind you, but one that I will not enjoy our voyages into whatsoever. So, just steel yourselves for that. If you feel I've been too positive up to now, just wait for that one. Okay, so next, we need to access the waterway, I believe. But first, Merlin may make us practice magic really quickly, so I'll just show you guys what this is like. So Merlin will conjure up these harmless targets that you can use to practice your magic spells on without ever actually consuming any MP, or more accurately, just with infinitely recharging MP. Now, the only thing I wanted to show you here, aside from the fact that this exists, is the application of the Thunder spell. As you see, it's got a nice little AoE that can actually strike the same targets multiple times, and is an absolute beast of a spell, even at this stage. Now, of course, if you're familiar with Final Fantasy, you know that there are often multiple phases, or rather multiple forms of each magic spell, each more powerful than the last, and, well, we can upgrade our magic in a similar way later in the game, so just imagine what Thunder's going to look like by the end game. Oh, it is beautiful, friends. Now that we've made our way through... Oh, I guess there's nothing Merlin can offer us, believe it or not. Strange. Oh, wait, that's right. They said Leon was in the waterway, as in the alley behind the hotel, because I am smart, you see. No matter, we needed to come open that environment up anyway, because we'll be returning there probably every world, or after every couple of story chapters at least, for the remainder of the game. Thunder magic is a great anti-air measure, by the by. Except for these little mage Heartless. Unless you hit them with their weakness, magic in general does very, very little to them. Now there is one spell we'll acquire a bit later on that I believe all of the mage Heartless are weak to. And it is the best anti-air measure in the entire game. But for now, Thunder is a perfectly acceptable substitute. So a question for those of you out there who are just watching the Final Mix version of Kingdom Hearts who may be familiar with the original. You can comment in the YouTube VOD or just down in the stream chat live if you would like. Do you prefer the color palettes for the Emblem Heartless in Final Mix or the original, like, international version? It's kind of tough for me because, as I said in last night's streams, certain bosses, particularly the guard armor, look a little awkward to me, but on the whole, the cooler color palettes, like lots of blues and earthy tones, like tans, yellows, greens, kind of works for me, at least for the standard enemies. I think I might prefer that, but of course the standard looks, like the soldiers being, you know, kind of blue and magenta, is just so iconic. It's kind of a toss-up for me. So that, I guess that's my question of the day. That's something streamers do, right? Sure. Oh, and it's time to meet the third member of the magical Heartless Circle, the Yellow Operas, or the Lightning Elemental Heartless. They have two basic attacks. They can call down a single bolt of lightning on your at your location, which you can easily dodge out of the way of or interrupt before it's fully cast, and they can charge themselves with electricity and kind of dive bomb you. So they're a bit more versatile than the other Mage Heartless, but they're still kind of a non-entity. Speaking of non-entities, Green Requiem, the final member of the Mage Heartless Coven we'll be meeting for now, and bearers of the Cure magic. They are totally harmless, they cannot attack you, but what they do rather is provide essential healing services to other Heartless. They are, at least in the early game, very commonly paired up with large bodies or other Heartless with significant HP pools that they could theoretically just refill endlessly. So dealing with large bodies, not too bad. Dealing with multiple large bodies at a time can be something of a pain. Oh, but we did learn a brand new ability, the Stun Impact, which I believe may be a finishing move for standard combos. Now, it's worth noting, while I said that most Emblem Heartless did get, totally new color palettes for this game, the Final Mix re-release, the Mage Heartless being kind of, iconically tied to their color, did not. Although I would say more than anything else, that's just for the purposes of aiding recognition. Now, if we build our character the way I typically do when I play Kingdom Hearts, by endgame, most enemies we encounter, standard enemies at least, including the large bodies, should be very easily managed within 2 to 3 combos. You won't quite have to wear them down this much. And give the big guys this, they are a party. Oh, wait a moment. Sorry, one little thing I forgot. We'll just maneuver around any battles we find ourselves in right now, but we're going to go check in on the Dalmatians, because clearly our goodwill in rescuing those poor little puppies should be rewarded, yes? Yes.
Come on!
So we'll see this adorable little cutscene of some of the precocious pups running about, and you can actually find each of them now scattered throughout the 4 rooms of the Dalmatians' manor. But so grateful are the parents that they elect to reward us. Let's see. Okay, first one has to be small, I get... Gummies. A couple pretty common gummies. You know I can put them right back in those boxes, right? Just check yourself. I think we will meet up with Leon and then call it a stream. If only because we're about to launch into a pretty active segment of gameplay that will actually send us spiraling pretty well into the second act of the game proper. So hopefully we can start tomorrow's streams. Hopefully we'll be streaming tomorrow. I'm actually going to link to my Twitter that I set up just for this account down in the comments of the VOD, hopefully, so that you can follow that for updates, notifications as to when I'll be streaming. It'll be pretty random and erratic due to my schedule these days, but hopefully we'll stream tomorrow and we can finish the... hold on, I wanted you to see that new Trinity really quickly. I think it's hilarious. So that you can see what I'm streaming in tomorrow's streams, there will be at least one, hopefully. We'll see us complete the second Traverse Town story arc, and properly begin exploration of the game's second act, which is where things get really good. So again, Heart of the Worlds, just think, like the World Soul, or Ultima from, I think it was Ultima, right? Or Mako from Final Fantasy VII. So the goal, the intent of the Heartless is simply to consume all of the energy, the metaphysical energy, the so-called right soul or heart of each of these worlds, so that they may be consumed by the Dark Realm and continue to like power the ravenous and constantly voracious Heartless ecosystem. Basically, they're Galactus Light. So now we have our direction for the rest of the game. We're kinda looking for our friends, but primarily we're just going to go on an interstellar tourism trip and seal off these different worlds from the Heartless as we can. So we're just kind of bumbling about, which sets the tone for the rest of Sora's adventures. He's just kinda there, he just kinda does stuff. But now we actually need to interact with Leon for a second time to complete our time with him by inquiring about this gummy block. Okay, that gem he just gave us, the Earthshine, will allow us to actually talk with the Fairy Godmother and earn our first summon. Summons in this game, as they are in Final Fantasy, are very flashy and, again, aesthetically appealing, but kind of vary in their... oh, yet more animals. They'd better ask Mom and Dad to give me something more than gummies this time, I'm just saying. But summons are kind of wildly varying in their utility. The first one we're going to get, I will demonstrate to you probably on tomorrow's stream, but I can tell you right now is effectively worthless when we've got much better options for combat. Or we're not going to be able to talk to Fairy Godmother yet? I swear to God, you guys, I'm so sorry. I swear I did play and beat this game several times when I was, like, much, much younger, but we're actually going to teleport right now just to get back to the first district and Sid's shop that much faster. Now, as the game goes on, we will also unlock abilities that allow us to maneuver around the worlds much faster. And it was kind of glossed over, but you saw me demonstrate it in the alleyway. We now, after clearing Deep Jungle or Olympus Coliseum, I think, have the ability to interact with red Trinity symbols, like the one outside the accessory shop. Sid, befitting his reputation from the Final Fantasy series, and Final Fantasy VII in particular, is a master engineer and knows all about gummies, somehow. Sora's character summed up in one single box of text. We don't know anything, and we don't need to, because heroes. Alright, so this navigation gummy will allow us to explore a whole series of new worlds. Unfortunately, that would technically include this world. This whole book is going to be the bane of my existence in this game, and in Kingdom Hearts 2. So, I think we actually have to deliver the Hell book before we can get our summon from the Fairy Godmother. But really quickly, I just want to use this Trinity Ram over here to break through this rather flimsy wooden wall and access the other side of this wall of crates we saw back here in the alleyway for yet more Dalmatians. We are just clicking these off, and keep in mind there's only 33 chests of Dalmatians in the entire game, and we've already collected a fair few of them. Now, one more brief trip into the 3rd district to deliver the tome which shall not be named.
Come on! Come on!
Not too much to say here, just your average mix of mages and air support. Again, pro-level play here. Oh, Jesus. Didn't know they could just body check you like that, or I guess I had never noticed, rather, I should say. Okay, something else I neglected to do. We can now electrocute this split wire, for which we will be rewarded with something. Maybe. Yes, no. Probably a chest somewhere else in the district. So we'll take just a quick tour around to see if that's so. Now, the whole aesthetic feel of Traverse Town as a locale would really be fleshed out by its appearance in Kingdom Hearts 3D, which I think really expanded, and expanded well on a classic beloved world from the franchise. You got to explore more of the town that felt a bit more like the 3rd district, so sort of this bizarre mishmash of Victorian architecture and maybe like Shibuya-style nightlife, which I just found so cool, very visually appealing. Now we're going to go back to Merlin one last time to deliver this book that he has a great deal of attachment to for some reason. Okay. No, I really don't. So we get a bit of backstory on this book, and again, its significance to the plot is very interesting. I don't want to come across as overly negative here. And it's even got a fairly interesting mechanic to go along with it. The book functions as a very, very special world. We can actually enter it and interact with the characters described in its pages. But in order to do so, we must find torn pages in treasure chests scattered throughout really the second ring of worlds. So Act 2. And by finding these and reattaching them to the book, putting them back in their proper place, we will have access to more and more areas and a greater section of that world's full story chapter. Now that world, much like Olympus Coliseum's tournaments, is entirely optional and is home to some very lackluster mini-games more than anything else, along with some charming characters who we will all recognize and adore from our childhoods. But again, a bit like the gummy ships, it feels too unconnected to the main gameplay loop for me. It's not, like I said, something like Yakuza, right? Where everything you do in these sub-games, everything you do in these spokes connects back to the main wheel, the central gameplay loop, and there's sort of this reciprocal causality of unlocking something in the main game, unlocking new cool stuff in the mini-games, which in turn unlocks cool new stuff in the main game. There's not really any of that here. You get some decent items from the optional world, so that alone makes it worth the trip. But it's not gonna be a fun trip. I probably won't come back here until I have all of the torn pages, or I won't come back here for that world. That way we could just power through it in one sitting. So when you summon a character, they will be active on the battlefield, helping you in place of your 2 party members, in most cases, for a limited amount of time. Each summon varies in its abilities, its actual capabilities in direct combat, and the ways in which it may buff or support your character. This first one, Simba from The Lion King, is a pure damage summon. You summon him, and he gives you access to a special ability called the Proud Roar, which, if properly charged and utilized, can deal a fair amount of AoE damage, but really doesn't prove as effective as... Are you kidding me? I can't... Okay, there we go. Doesn't prove as effective as just effective maneuvering around the battlefield and using the abilities we already have at our disposal. But we will take a look at that tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thinking about streaming sometime tomorrow morning or afternoon, depending on how my schedule shakes out.